Hey everybody, I'm Karyn Bryant.
And I'm Angela Overkill Hill.
And this is
What
Had Happened Was.
was. Did I do the H? No, I always do the H backwards.
That's what I was just going to say. I noticed last week that I was totally doing my H backwards too. I was doing it for me, and then I was like, oh wait, no, that's totally wrong.
Yeah, I have to think what bad happened was. So it looks the right way.
Right.
Bad.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, so yeah, it's this. So it's what had happened was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
So there we go. So welcome to What Had Happened Was. This is a podcast where we talk about MMA, but we also sort of talk about a lot of pop culture and other big things in life. I am an anchor with the UFC. I've covered MMA for a really long time. I started in combat sports covering boxing in like 2006 or so, and started covering the UFC and MMA in 2007. Been doing this a while. Angela, what are your credentials?
I've been fighting professionally since, I don't even know, like 2012 or something, 2014. I've been in the UFC since I went pro, and I'm a UFC strawweight. I just want to fight. I'm feeling myself, and I'm ready to talk about some other people's fights.
That's right. So cool. Listen, if this is the first time you're checking us out, this is episode number 10. We've got some other ones, and we have a lot of plans for the show. At some point, we're going to get a real life fancy intro and everything. But you know what? Right now, we're just using our black girl magic, and we're just throwing this thing together the way we can. And we appreciate you guys joining us. And if you're like new to MMA and you have questions, leave them in the comments. There's no such thing as a stupid question.
Cheers to that.
Hey, cheers.
And for once I'm not in fight camp, so I can enjoy
That's right.
my nightcap with you.
That's right. So, yeah, we definitely encourage you to have a beverage with us. So, Angela, last night was UFC 260, and we have an new situation in the heavyweight title fight. Francis Ngannou defeated Stipe Miocic, second round knockout. And it's a rematch. They fought a couple years ago. The storyline, for those who maybe weren't, into MMA before, Stipe really was in control of that first fight. Francis didn't have the gas tank for it, and he also just didn't have the wrestling technique. So I'm curious what your take is seeing him this time, because obviously Francis has evolved a lot.
Man, he looked amazing. And I think the one moment that stuck out in everyone's minds is the first round, where Stipe goes for that single leg. He gets sprawled on super hard. And then Francis didn't just back out. He circled around to the side and starts ground and pounding, hitting the uppercut elbows from under, or the uppercut punches from underneath the armpit, boom, boom, boom. And that was the moment that you realize Francis has evolved. He's learned to attack from everywhere, not just on his feet, but on the ground. He probably could have done a little bit more. But a lot of times when you flex those muscles, like those wrestling muscles as a striker, you feel a little hesitant to do too much. So I feel like we're only scratching the surface of what Francis has been working on. And man, his power can set up so many things, his power just corrals people into the position that he needs for them to attack. So that was really, oh man, that was so crazy seeing Ngannou use his power and show his takedown defense and show that you're not just gonna get sprawled on, you're gonna pay as soon as that attempt fails. So you better make it count. You better get that takedown. So that's gonna put a lot of fear into people's heads who think they can go in with this wrestler dominant game plan. Because I mean, who's a better wrestler in the division who's active right now than Stipe Miocic? So man, that was really impressive.
I know exactly what you mean. That there was that moment, and all of a sudden, Francis kind of spun off his back, and I was like, "Oh my God, look at him! Look at that!" And then and he had this great sprawl and everything, and I was like, "Oh my God!" But if you remember, at one point, DC was all, okay, now, maybe you don't want to necessarily go offensively wrestling though right now. There was a moment where, kind of like you said, you get your new tools and you're like, let me try this out. I think it was a good balance for Francis last night to use it defensively and a little bit offensively. But yeah, you're right. It's all about his power. But I was so just, Stipe is such a great champion, and we all know his record is incredible, and he's incredible. My mom used to be an EMT. She used to train EMTs. I have firefighter friends. You know what I mean? So there's so much about Stipe that I so much respect and just really appreciate what a champion he has been in and out of the octagon. But to me, it was also really hard to deny Francis's story. And I think so much of what is exciting about him as a champion, it's not only just the changing of the guard. And I like, you know, we get some fresh blood. And to be honest, Stipe wasn't the most active champion. And I think perhaps Francis will be more active, I hope. But just that story of everything that Francis went through to come from Cameroon, to go to Europe, everything to make it to where he is now. I don't know if you've seen, I'm sure you have, you know, Mick shared some, Mick Maynard and ESPN, everybody's sharing these videos. Israel's Adesanya shared videos of their reaction, of Africans reacting to this win. And it's hard to watch that and not get choked up. It's such an incredible story.
Yeah, it gives you chills. It definitely gives you chills. And it's so cool to see all that unraveling, everyone being so supportive about it. See the people that he's inspiring. Like I saw one video where they set up like tents. Like it was Francis Ngannou's hometown in Cameroon. I forget the name of the town, but they set up tents. They must have had like a huge big screen or something. Hopefully they weren't streaming illegally. Dana's coming for you. But they were set up outside. Everyone was watching. They're like intensely watching, and then it happens, and they're like, oh, and then it happens again, and they're like, ah, like it's so amazing to watch. And man, I really love that he was able to get that win. I love that he's able to have his moment, this moment that he's been working towards since the first fight, you know, just steadily trying to better himself. He came in with a lot of hype and then got derailed a little bit when he lost to Stipe, but he didn't let that get him down. And a lot of prospects, you see, they get all this hype, they get all this push from the UFC, and the pressure amounts to like too much. So when they do drop the ball, it's hard to come back from that. But Francis, that never affected him. He never let that get him down. He kept trudging towards like the victory. I mean, if you look at his backstory, you can see why. He's always been a hard worker. He's always been appreciative of the opportunities that he's gotten in the UFC and just by coming to America and everything. So yeah, he's just an awesome champion to look forward to like watching and seeing thrive. Like you love to see that. You love to see good people do good things.
You do. And the thing is after the loss to Stipe the first time, he had that fight with Derek Lewis. I remember working that fight. We were all like, this is going to be the dopest heavyweight fight in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And we all know what happened. It was the worst. I mean, let's be honest, it was one of the worst heavyweight fights we've seen, because Francis admitted afterwards he was gun shy because he had lost to Stipe and he was so hesitant and didn't want to lose again, and really learned a lot from that. And then also there was a moment where, like you just mentioned, he came in with a lot of hype, and he did, I think, let his ego get out of control a little bit, right? So he then had to check himself and regroup, and because you know, and it's understandable. I mean, it's understandable if you see where he's coming from, and all of a sudden people are throwing this at you and giving you that. I understand it. So I guess my point is just that I really like the growth that we've seen from him, and that story just warms my heart. And I think also what's amazing about him, when you see him, like that's where you're like, yeah, that's our champion, right? And then everybody's like, oh yeah, that's the baddest man on the planet. You know what I mean? Like when they see Francis, and like, holy crap, that is a mountain of a man. And so to me, just the visuals on that's incredible. But Angie, I want to know your take on the fact that Israel Adesanya, Francis Ngannou, and Kamaru Usman are all champions. They are all African-born men, and they are all champions. It's like the full-on Wakanda in the UFC right now. And I mean, they're killing it, and I love the bond that the three of them have together.
Yeah, it was so awesome seeing Usman in his corner, and I wonder how much he was actually involved in that camp, because like, man, like you can see like the confidence in his wrestling, like in Ngannou's confidence.
Yeah, they've worked together before. I know Kamaru's cornered him before. They're it's more than just for visuals. It's they're friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's been putting in time. Like you can tell, like he's definitely been doing his homework, and that bond has probably gotten him a lot further than it would have if he I don't know, if he didn't work with him. So that's really awesome to see. And I mean, part of me thinks it's a conspiracy because Coming to America 2 just came out. So
It was
they're
funny. I watched. Did you watch it? It's funny.
it was pretty funny. I heard some reviews where they're like, "Oh, it sucked," and I'm like, "Oh man, I don't want it to." But I watched it and I was very amused. I watched it during my fight week. Actually, it was
I
awesome.
liked it. I thought it
Yeah,
was funny.
I liked it too. And then I worked out to all the songs from
Right. Well,
from,
I loved it. And
from
anyway,
the movie.
I love Leslie, but the scene, and I put it on my Insta story, and I literally almost tagged a friend of mine. The scene when they're in the bar and they start to, it's your chest, do the dance, do the hump, humpty baby, right? You remember that scene where and I was
Yeah,
like, I literally almost tagged my friend because that's me. That's fully me doing the Humpty dance in the bar, getting my
yeah,
drink on, like the
but-
Humpty
yeah,
dance
but
is your
yeah,
chance, do the hump.
exactly.
And then I almost tagged my friend, but I didn't. She ended up sending me a message, my friend Tracy, and she was like, "Oh my god, that's so me." I'm like, "Bitch, I know. I almost tagged you."
I almost tagged you. I'm mad I didn't. But believe me, I almost did.
But yeah, so I hopefully, one day we'll get UFC Africa. That's something like we've talked about
Yeah.
before. Now with 3 champions, I mean, I know the world is in COVID, but hopefully it happens. Hopefully I get to anchor that night if it happens.
Hopefully I get to fight on that card. Like, hey, I'll do my ancestry. I've been holding out.
I was just gonna say because
I've been holding out, but
yeah,
I'll do
we don't
my
know
ancestry.
because I have you ever done the I did a 23andMe at Fox, and
Okay.
I'm 60% European and 35% or whatever African. I mean, we all are, right? We all come from somewhere there. Obviously, I'm
Oh, okay.
Jamaican, but my mom's Jamaican, but obviously I have a lot of that. But yeah, all of our roots trace back there somewhere.
Yeah, I definitely want to because I have Africa running through my roots. I know. So I don't know which country I have the most genetics from. I'm really interested. I feel like they should give like Black Americans like a pro bono 23andMe, like just because like you definitely can't trace back to
Right.
just through a family tree. Like we get it. So yeah, you get one. You get one
Yeah.
on the house.
Well, yeah, I got it for free at Fox because when we had the World Cup, they did a thing where they were having a promotion, and 23andMe was like, okay, so we'll do your DNA for you, and then based on your code, pick a
Mhm.
team to root for. So I ended
Okay.
up picking England because, like I said, I'm like 60, which I knew, but because I'm part Scottish, my mom's maiden name is a Scottish name, and so I'm part Scottish, so I already kind of knew that. So I knew I had a lot of that sort of Great Britain thing going. So when the breakdown came out and it was like, yeah, 60% European and but mostly here, so I just picked
Yeah.
England, to root for in the World
Yeah.
Cup or whatever. But yes, you should find out, Angie, where you're from.
I'm paranoid though. I don't want to set up any of my relatives who might have had some DNA left over at a crime scene somewhere. Like
Totally.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I
My
for sure
extended
didn't share it.
family. I don't want
Right.
to be responsible.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah,
question to you then, Ange, is do you want John Jones to be the first person to fight Francis?
I think I do. I think I do because Jones has been sitting pretty, just talking his shit from his little ivory tower on Twitter, and I would love to see him come out in a huge fight. I'd love to see that. I feel like it would be comparable to Conor McGregor coming out of nowhere and fighting someone. You know what I mean? Because you both of these guys have huge star powers, not just Conor McGregor coming out to fight like Donald Cerrone, who's a big star, but not nearly as big as Conor. I feel like Ngannou has just grown. His like stardom has grown exponentially in the last like couple of years, and that would just be the biggest fight to make. So I am excited for that fight. I mean, for selfish reasons too. Like I don't want someone get get Ngannou first, and then maybe you get the upset, and then maybe he doesn't win, and then you never see that like clash of titans that you want to see. So I don't know. I'm okay with Jones versus Francis, especially because like if you look at the top 5 heavyweights, like Francis is fought most of them. I feel like
right,
he's
but
already
at this
fought.
point, he and Derek are totally different, and that would be a totally different fight.
For sure, but it would be nice to see that new fight first before you start going to rematches.
So listen, I'm not mad at it either necessarily. I think I love watching John fight. Like, you know what I mean? To me, it's like anytime you get to watch John fight, you're like, okay, cool. This is gonna be good. I love the reaction DC gave when if you saw that clip where John Anik asking DC about if DC had ever had to fight Francis. He's like, no.
Yeah.
And believe me, I was so happy DC never fought Francis because that scared the crap out of me. The thought of my friend putting his head in jeopardy against Francis Ngannou, like that scared the crap out of me. And I'm so glad DC never did it.
You enjoy conversations with him. You don't want him to
right.
start slurring his words.
Yeah. So my only hesitancy with seeing John fight Francis is not seeing John as a heavyweight taking a heavyweight punches and things like that, right? Because there's heavyweights and heavyweight punches, and then there's Francis Ngannou. Like, do you know what I mean? And so I want to see it too.
This is for John, not for not for Francis. For John's sake, you want him to ease into the heavyweight position.
That's what I'm saying. Is I want John to have to get a sense of his bearings there. Is all, but
I think
but obviously I'm afraid that he's not. So let him fight him. I'm not trying to stop it from happening. I'm just saying I'm nervous.
I think you're still a little traumatized from the Izzy Blachowicz fight. Blachowicz, sorry, champ. I think you're a little traumatized. You don't want John to lose his flair, his undefeated champ.
I don't know if it would take away from it, but I love his bravado. I love his, tweets and deletes. I'm here for all of it.
Thank God someone took away his Snapchat. Yeah, I don't know. I really like John Jones versus Ngannou, but I wouldn't be mad if they gave Derek Lewis the title shot. I think he definitely earned it. But at the same time, like, what gets more butts in the seat? Jones versus Ngannou.
Well, you're right, because to be honest with you, I say that and then I'm like, well, so then who would I have John fight instead? And I don't have an answer. So
yeah. Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be?
At any rate, it's exciting to have some new blood at the top of heavyweight, and it's cool. And congrats to Francis and all that. And I don't know if Stipe is going to stop fighting now. Obviously people had talked about that before. We know he's had some eye issues. Stipe's definitely proven himself. He has nothing left to prove. So if Stipe rode off into the sunset, I'd be totally fine with that as well. If he did want to fight one more time, though, I actually wouldn't mind seeing Stipe versus John.
Oh, interesting. I mean, that would be a good ease in, because John mostly just has to deal with the bigness of Stipe. And, I mean, Stipe hits hard too. Like, the stuff that he landed on DC and, like, punches out of the clinch and little chipping elbows, like it wouldn't be a walk in the park for sure. So that would be a fun fight to make. I think I wouldn't be too mad at that. Or you could give him a little taste of some new blood and give him Cyril Gane.
Cyril Gane? Yeah. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, Gane.
Yeah, Cyril Gane, because he's active and he's a kickboxer. Yeah, you're right.
Bouncy. Laid on his feet.
Yeah, well, the reason I also, even though I know that our fabulous what had happened was demos, by the way, what had happened was demos. The reason I also like John versus Stipe is because if John's the GOAT, for certain the light heavyweight GOAT, but quite possibly the GOAT, and if Stipe is for sure the heavyweight GOAT, I also think that's why that fight makes sense to me, regardless of whether or not Stipe has the title right now. It still would be GOAT versus GOAT, and that's still interesting.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I can see that. I'm not mad at it.
Not mad at it. All right, so Ange, I want to know your take on the co-main event, and I want to just first and foremost say that if anybody's going to talk trash about my friend Tyron, I'm not here for it, because T-Wood is a good dude. Right. And any of you guys talking crap in there, I'm pretty sure you probably weren't a champion, probably didn't already fight all the killers that he fought, and probably haven't, faced the challenges that he has. So with that said, Tyron is my friend. I was hoping he was going to win. I have nothing against Vicente Luque. He's an incredible fighter who I met and like really loved from doing The Ultimate Fighter. But of course, the story with Tyron is I really wanted to see him come back and be that old Tyron. And I think he really did reclaim a lot of who he was. Is Vicente's just friggin' awesome. And like, he's a G. So Tyron, I think, would have beaten a lot of other people. Vicente's a G.
Yeah, it really does suck that he gets so many killers in a row, and you see that happen with a few fighters who are on top. Like, look at the easiest for me to compare to is my own weight class, but look at someone like Carolina,
Kovacevic.
Pop. Carolina Pop Kovacevic. She got like a bunch of top fivers in a row and just loss after loss after loss, and bad too. Like, not just decision, not just she didn't keep up with the punches or she got taken down or anything. Like, she was getting her head, her orbital sockets busted up. Like, she was really taking a lot of damage in those fights. And you always wonder what happened mentally.
What had happened?
What had happened mentally to the fighter to give him, because you do get like as a fighter who's like been in like a few like annoying losses, like you get a little bit of like anxiety when you get to certain positions or when you get to certain like days of your fight camp where it's going to get really hard, or when you start walking out. Like, there's different moments where you can get like extreme anxiety to the point where it cripples your performance. And it's you always think like, what is that trigger for the fighter? Like, why are they doing less than they were doing a year ago or 2 years ago against the same caliber of fighter? And I think that's why a lot of people will say like, hey, Tyron needs to hang it up. He's not there, because you see it like in the beginning of the Luque fight. I actually feel like he got over a big hurdle with this fight. Like, it looked like whatever shit that he was letting get to him, he was able to push it down, stuff it down, like hopefully in a healthy way. Just shove it down. Don't think about it. Till after the fight, that's when you're allowed to be emotional. But like, he did so well in the first round, and you saw like kind of, it felt like he hit that wall again, but there was definitely a glimpse of his older self where he was like doing well, he was fighting back, he was timing things well, and then he just got nailed, man. He just got nailed. So I feel like that was the old Woodley coming back, but against that top level competition, he's not gonna come back fully. He's not gonna fully reemerge. Like, he needs some lower ranked guys in order to really see like the dominant fighter that he was a few years ago.
But of course, he only should get highly ranked people, being a former champion and all these things. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is the strength of his schedule is always going to be really incredibly difficult, And so I agree, and I don't want to. You touched on something that I think is 100% true. That win or lose, and obviously he lost. We know what happened. There were still some moral victories, or some other victories of some things that he did have to overcome to you know what I mean, and he did. So it wasn't all bad. Let's just put it that way. So I'm happy for him. The thing that's tough is, a lot of people then right away are like, well, hello, Bellator, and maybe he will go back and work with Scott. Who knows? Like, he fought with Scott before for Strikeforce. They have a great, like, I don't know. I mean, and we know that, Tyron and Dana didn't always get along great. And I really don't know what's going to happen with that. If he isn't in the UFC anymore, I'm bummed. If he is going to go somewhere else and keep fighting, I think we saw on Saturday night that he still has a lot to give.
Yeah, for sure. And if he goes to Bellator, I'm sure they'll pay him a ton. You know, I'm sure they'll try to at least like match what he's getting paid in the UFC. So, I mean, that would be great for him. I never, because I've seen a few teammates like go from UFC to Bellator. I'm like, it's not a big deal. Like, it's not. People like to throw the comment out there, like it's like they're being witty, like they're making fun of someone. But like this guy took a whatever it is, just a bad situation or just not getting what they felt like they deserved, and they packed their bag up and they took it somewhere else, and they ended up paying him way better. So it's like why be mad at a fighter for making a good business decision, you know? So yeah, I never see that as a dig. It's always like oh well, you're a little too caught up in name brands, mister, you know?
Yeah, well, exactly. And I'm sorry, I just paused because I just looked out my window and there's a full moon and it looks absolutely amazing right now. And so I was like, I need to take a picture of that because that looks dope AF. But yeah,
Like,
obviously when we're talking about, yeah, it's full. Phil Davis is probably who you're thinking of with going to Bellator. And you're right, like people love to use it as a diss. Meanwhile, my dear friend Gegard is over at Bellator getting effing paid and being a champion and living a good life. So it's not a bad thing at all. And I also, yes, I definitely don't want to make it sound like I was saying that that's a diss because it is not. And Scott's a great guy. I remember working with him a lot with Strikeforce. Like there's so much quality over there. So yeah, that'd be fine. That'd be fine. I just get sad when it means I don't get to see my friends or call their fights or talk about their fights. You know what I mean?
For sure, for sure. So I just wanted to because we already talked about it, I just wanted to say thank you, Z Day, for the question about what's going on with T Wood.
Oh, right.
So Z Day from Instagram, that's your answer. And then there's another one. Somebody asked about, what's next for Stipe and Francis Ngannou? So George Foreman the fifth. Oh wait, is it the fourth or the fifth?
Oh, the fourth. Yeah.
Maybe the fourth. No, fourth. George Foreman the fourth. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for your questions. Yes. Okay, so yes. So and Vicente, by the way, he called out Nate Diaz after, right?
Did he? That's amazing. I would love that fight. And I love that he's not in a rush, you know? He's not in a rush to the title. Yeah. He's taking his time, and I really feel like that guy's he's a killer.
He's
like
so
I feel like, you know, I feel like he might be the next one, you know, the next one to just get the upset and become champion. Like I really see that happening in his future.
I could see that too. He's incredible, and that's the thing. You know, I don't want to ever take anything away from him because he's incredible. It's just T Wood's a friend of mine, like a real good friend. You know, so
yeah.
You know, it's that kind of thing. But Vicente, like I said, after meeting him doing the Ultimate Fighter from the Black Zillions versus ATT, and we knew right from then that he was special, and you see it in all his fights, and he's incredible, and yeah, like the whole idea of Gilbert working with him too, and all this stuff. Like I agree that Vicente, I don't even want to say he's the dark horse because he's winning these fights in really incredible ways that make you pay attention. But at the same time, I also think he's the guy a little bit under the radar that everybody doesn't necessarily think about with the name brand recognition. But meanwhile, when you look at him, it's like all finishes. Like he doesn't go to decision very often. He's a straight up killer.
Yeah, he's one of those people who you're like, oh, that name sounds familiar, and then you look at his Wikipedia and you're like, he knocked out all my people. Like he knocked out everyone I like.
Totally.
So he's definitely one of those people who are under the radar. You know, he doesn't talk. He doesn't say much. You know, he's a very humble fighter. He's not like going out there like trying to be someone he's not.
Right.
And sometimes that you don't catch people's attention, even with an attention getting knockout. And he's very meat and potatoes. Like he doesn't throw things that are super fancy. He's just really, really good at the fundamentals. And a lot of times strikers like that go under the radar too because they're not spinning. They're not throwing like crazy, like high kicks every 2 seconds. And that's usually not what wins fights. Usually it's just like a well planted punch, a well timed counter attack, and those are things that knock people out. So yeah, he's definitely one of those silent killers that people should watch out for. Use them on your parlay every time. I guarantee you're not going to be mad.
Well, and to your point, that's exactly how I described Jan Blachowicz as a meat and potatoes fighter. I've said it on the air, and I've said all this, and guess what? Meat and potatoes feeds families, and meat and potatoes wins fights.
It does. You will not go hungry.
Exactly. All right, so one of the other things that stood out to me, Suga Sean, as women, Angela, a lot of people got mad at Suga Sean and Casey Kenny for some stuff that they had said about Megan, and that wasn't cool. That was, if anything, that was a note that people should remember, that when cameras are running, there are certain things you're not supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
Because we all have these conversations, you're just not supposed to have them when the cameras are running. Let's be honest.
Exactly. And, it's also bad when it's somebody that you're going to run into, like you'll probably be stuck in an elevator with them at some point. Like, I don't know. I like to keep my mouth shut when it's people that I can't legally fight. Like, like if I'm gonna say something disrespectful, it's gonna be someone that I can sign a contract for, So that way, if the scrap does happen, it'll be good promotion for the fight that's gonna happen later. But yeah, I try to keep it PC with anyone that I'm gonna run into, someone who I necessarily don't want to be at odds with. Like, I feel like Casey Kenny had no relationship with Megan Anderson. It was just put on the spot and kind of made, like, he was set up. Like, Kenny was set up. He was totally filling the conversation. He's like, oh, this is chill. This is casual. No, it's never casual when it's being recorded. Somebody's watching and someone's waiting for you to fuck up. So keep your mouth shut,
Totally.
Like, don't smoke weed around anyone who you don't know personally. If you don't know their last name, don't smoke weed with them.
Seriously, right? you put your phones down on the table or in the box over there or whatever. Like, literally. And I would say I forget, but I don't forget. But there are times when we're at work on the set and we're mic'd, and there are different things on satellite that sometimes, even if you're in a commercial break, people can hear you. And we forget that sometimes. And so if you go back a couple months ago, Rashad and I were just goofing around. It was when you guys were fighting. And afterwards, we were about to do the post show, and we started making stuff up about Michelle. Like, we were just joking that we were doing an old school intro, and we were like, ladies and gentlemen, the karate hottie is Like, so we just started making up these ridiculous sounding things. Like, it wasn't about the fighter. It was just like, we were doing announcer voice. And then somebody like recorded it and then tweets it. And they're like, look at Rashad and Karyn making fun of Brendan. We were like, what? Like, we weren't making fun of Brendan. Like, we weren't making fun of Brendan Fitzgerald at all. We were doing the most over-the-top, ridiculous guy in the world. Like, what?
Yeah.
But it was funny.
They were projecting.
Totally
that's
projecting.
What they think of Brendan.
But anyway, regardless, Sean used to come to Fox sometimes. I like the kid. He's young. I'm going to chalk it up to young and dumb on some of the stuff that they've done, outside of the octagon or whatever. But inside the octagon, Suga Sean is a lot of fun to watch. And going into this fight with Almeida used to be the man. Obviously, we know things change or whatever. But Suga Sean had the almost walk-off KO and then was like, oh, wait, I got to go back to work. But then eventually got it in the third round. And I'm just curious what your take is on his desire for that sort of showy flair thing versus maybe doing more meat and potato stuff that would just win the fight sooner.
I mean, look at how far it's gotten him. Like, how many people know Suga Sean O'Malley's name compared to Vicente Luque? Yeah. And he's had much more impressive, I would say, KOs just because of the caliber of opponents that Luque has had. He's like knocked out some pretty crazy opponents. So I would say just that flash, that extra bit that he does outside of the cage, his little kind of stoner, trash talking, the colorful hair, like all that is a full package that he's totally used for his advantage. Like, he has become so famous in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, like as soon as he came onto the scene from the Contender Series, he became a star. So he's just one of these people that I feel like it happened organically with like the Snoop Dogg going crazy, and then Knockout goes viral, and then he just became one of those fighters that bring non-MMA people into the mix, you know? Like he has this look that a lot of kids like.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so old talking like this, like all the kids love that look.
The kids these days.
The kids these days, you know, they love it. They love it when people don't like, I don't know, they don't comb their hair and they put tattoos on their face. They love it. The kids love it. They love it. That's what they like now. So he has this marketable look that the kids love, like I call it Generation TikTok, and yeah, he's used all that to market himself well, and he backs it up. As soon as he stops backing it up, people are going to use it to criticize him. But that's what got him this far when it comes to promotion, and then it just helps that he's a great fighter.
He is great. I'm a fan. I'm not even gonna apologize. I like watching him fight. Like I said, I think he's a good kid. I like him.
Yeah.
I thought his hair looked hella dope. I loved the braids that they. I mean, she does. I don't want to say her name incorrectly, but she's really sweet. The girl that does a lot of the braiding for your hair, because sometimes I hang out with her and Heidi. I mean, I don't. Saturdays after the fights. Not ever during quarantine.
Oh, okay.
No. She's great. And we were talking, it'd be fun to do. I've never had my hair braided, and I would love that. I've never had it done.
Yeah, you should ask for the marijuana leaf in the back. And how about no one said anything about it? How did that happen? How did that get in there?
Yeah.
They take my mouthpiece and they black that out. They're like, oh, you can't have your mouthpiece because it's a art piece. It's called the African American flag, and it's just the American flag, but it's with the pan African flag colors, the red, black, and green. So that's my mouthpiece, and it's been my mouthpiece forever. But like since Shabazian came in with that flag that was not an official, I forget what the story was, but it was like a controversial flag.
Okay.
So ever since then, like they've been like, oh, what's that on your mouthpiece?
I think I know what it is, because there was an issue with somebody with a Palestinian thing, and then it became an Israel Palestine. Does America recognize this anymore? Like, yeah, there was something weird recently with a flag and a thing, and we were like, we could say they were from one place, but then like you had to be very specific about what you said, because like the United States government doesn't recognize XYZ as a thing. So it was,
Yeah. So that was after that, like they've been very strict about what flags are shown or whatever. But you can have a marijuana leaf braided into your hair. So whatever. What do I know about politics? PC culture.
Whatever. Well, Suga Sean is fun. I'm excited to see him. I know a lot of people kind of bust on him for his attitude or how he took that loss or whatever before, but I like him. I think he's fun.
What are you gonna do? Like he's doing it to get people to watch the fights. Like it's not. I'm sure he went back and assessed all the things that he did wrong in the fight, and people get so obsessive about that. They're like, you have to be sad about losing. Why aren't you more humble? And it's like, dude, like he's not gonna go into the gym and just work on not defending leg kicks, you know, like he's gonna go work on it. Like, why would he not work on it? It really amuses me how much fans focus on just the act of being humble or seeming humble, when I feel like personally, like a lot of the fighters who pretend to be humble are some of the laziest, like just entitled fighters there are. I'm not gonna say obviously not all of them, but there are a good chunk of people who are like, I'm humble, but really they're like, why am I not getting this, and this when they haven't done anything yet? So yeah, it like being humble a lot of times it's a ruse. It's another way to get fans. Oh, I'm gonna get the fans because I'm being humble and I seem humble online and stuff, and I seem grateful for this and that. And they're really just brats like everyone else. Like all of us are brats. We're all selfish. We're fighting for a living. Like we're all selfish, you know?
It's a selfish sport. You need to be selfish in a way. I mean,
yeah,
for sure. So I almost called you during the fights because I was in full distress with the girls in their tiny little shorts.
You clutching your pearls?
And, and you're always telling me that the shorty shorts are comfortable or whatever, but we all know that they're really for the fans. It stresses me out a great deal to see my girls in teeny tiny shorts in compromising positions.
Did you see some butt cheeks?
There was a couple close calls in the fight with Jillian. Couple close calls.
Did you see some meat? Some meat you weren't supposed to see. I think I missed that.
It makes me nervous because you guys are going for you're doing this. You guys, you always end up, the girls are so flexible. You end up in these very interesting positions sometimes. And I'm just afraid they're going to ride up a little too much.
Yeah, no, I get that, man. I don't like if I'm in a compromising position and those shorts are creeping up to the point where they're gonna get somewhere a little not, like PG-13, and I might stop defending the choke to fix my
right. And I don't want you to be distracted.
Yeah, no one wants their holes on TV. Your parents are watching, right. Like no one wants to see that. No, that's the risk you have to take though, because like the shorts, I feel like the shorts look pretty cute when you're fighting them, but at the same time, I do like the board shorts. I do like the skirt, like Yoder fought me.
I know, I love the skirt.
Tennis skirt that I thought was pretty cute. I didn't know that was an option. So
Renault, I think Marion wears the skirt too. I'm a fan of the skirt.
Okay, I would like if they made the gladiator skirt, like Melvin Manhoef.
Yes,
I would love if they did gladiator skirt. Maybe Venom. Maybe I could hit a Venom. Venom's coming soon. Yeah,
it's a good idea. I know, because I was joking before, like, if Reebok was having a fire sale on those skirts, because I play tennis, and those skirts would look really dope out on the court.
Yeah, there you go. They are cute.
They're cute. But yeah, for me, I would wear shorts down to the knee or something just so that nothing could fall out. But
yeah,
and like two bras.
I've never been worried about things falling out. I think it puts me into a more of a primitive state where like you see those street fights where like the girl's titty pops out and she doesn't care. She's like throwing all wild, trying to hit you with her titty too. Like that's how I feel when I go into a fight. I'm like, I'm gonna use every extremity to hit you, and shove my little tiny boob in your mouth.
That's what I was gonna say. It's not like there's a lot to come out. Like people be like, "Did I even see anything?" I'm be like, "No, you didn't."
Yeah, it's just a little. It's a game of inches, and I have like 2.
Okay, but I know one of the questions that came in online was asking, did we think that Jillian won the second round, or you know what I mean? And that because it was close. It was a close fight. I don't necessarily think it was unanimous.
Yeah, it was one of those tough ones where there was a lot of scrambles, and it was hard to say who was actually winning, the person going for subs and like controlling position, or the person on top, or like it was a weird one where there's just a lot of scrambling. And that's the one because I always say, like, if you're on top, you're winning the fight. But if you're on top and holding, then that's a different story, especially if you're on top and stalling. They're not really trying to progress to a different position. Yeah, that one was a weird one where you can't really be mad at the judges for calling it unanimous. You can't be mad at them for it being a split. If it was a split, it's just one of those ones where it's still a gray area for a lot of people who judge fights, so they don't really know what they're going to pick. Are they going to pick the person on top? Are they going to pick the person going for submissions? Are they going to pick the person who's leading the fight? I guess, say one person goes for a takedown and then gets down, but then they're getting like hit with all these submission attempts, but nothing's happening. Like, who do you score that for? You know, like it's a weird one. And I feel like if you do have a grappling heavy approach, you have to think about being on top. You know, you have to think about being on top. You can't work off of your back the whole time, because that makes it look like you're getting dominated and held in a position where you don't want to be. And yeah, it's still a tough one though, because I do feel like BJJ artists who go for a bunch of submissions over and over again, I feel like that should count the same way landing a combination. You know, like, yeah, you didn't knock them out, but you're trying to. And I feel like when a submission artist is going for like Kimura grips, for like guillotines, whatever, trying to get sweeps, I feel like that should count as them attempting to take this fight into their own hands, attempting to win the fight. And yeah, it's just a hard one to score, because when it doesn't work, it's like, well, what good was that? So yeah, it's a weird one.
It's hard to score. We were supposed to have another strawweight fight too. Obviously, you were in Vegas. Jess was supposed to have her comeback fight, and that's the thing that bummed me out so much, because for folks who don't know, Angela is a teammate of Jessica Penne. Jessica was supposed to finally have her comeback fight, and then thanks Rona, she doesn't get to fight.
Rona, when will you leave us alone? Yeah, it's really disappointing. I mean, I was super disappointed for Jess. I think she took it really well. In fact, like when Mick Maynard called her, she goes, "Well, I'm not fighting Angela," you know, because like,
right.
She pretty much knew like I was the only person who would be able to say yes in that amount of time. But yeah, it just sucks, because like she's been putting this fight off, but it's been postponed like at least 3 different times. Like, it was supposed to happen in December, then it got pushed back to February, then March, and now it's going to be in April. So hopefully she finally gets to have this fight happen, and she can get out of this Groundhog Day that is fight camp. And it really is. It's the main reason I hate not showing up to, or hate having a long fight camp. You never know who's going to be at the end of that camp. So short notice is perfect, because I'm like, okay, most likely I'm fighting this person, and I've only had to think about them for like a week, you know? So it makes it a lot easier to mentally deal with this thing, as opposed to like having an 8-week fight camp. Halfway through the camp, you switch opponents. Halfway through the camp, that opponent gets hurt, so you postpone it for another 3 weeks. You're peaking and going down and feeling like shit, and then peaking again and feeling like shit, hoping that you peak on the day of the fight. And it's a lot of stress to like put your body through, put your mind through. Like, I get the worst sleep in fight camp too. Even if I'm 8 weeks out, I'm like sleep fighting. You know, like it's a big ordeal. So I prefer short notice fights for that reason. And I really do feel for Jessica for having this long as I can, but it's going to be worth it. She looks great. I think she has Hannah Goldie's number, and hopefully we'll see that fight on April 17th.
I hope so too, and I'm working that night, and I'm excited. And that was the only upside, right? That was the only upside, is that I'll be working that night, which will be a lot of fun. And I know my boy Alan Joban's working that night too, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And I mean, for poor Jess, because she's had some bad luck. There was that day where she rolled her ankle like a couple hours before, right? Or the night before or something. Like, she's just had some bum luck.
Of the fight. The day of the fight, she was warming up. I was so happy it wasn't me, because people would have started getting suspicious. But but she was warming up with her judo coach, and hit like a trip that she hits all the time. But this time her foot just stepped a little funny, and her ankle rolled the opposite way that it's supposed to. And dude, by like maybe 20 minutes afterwards, she had this huge like grapefruit sized lump on her ankle. So yeah, we were definitely like, all right, you're not fighting.
I remember, that sucked. Well, listen, we're at the 48-minute mark. I want to see if we got any questions in. Let me double check if we got some on Twitter, on the Twitter. Oh, one thing I do want to mention on the Twitter is I don't know if you saw that tweet that a certain person over at ESPN put out, and he was.
Oh, and was it this guy? Was it that guy?
Okay, by the way, if people haven't seen your tutorial on how to punch like him, it's gold.
Yeah.
Freaking comedy gold. But anyway, he puts out a tweet and thanks everybody or talks about everybody on the coverage, talking about what great coverage they have, and conveniently left out the women that work there. So luckily Megan was like, hi. You know, like, what about, I think you forgot somebody there. And, you know, I was like, yeah, represent, Megan.
She held it down.
That's some bogus stuff. But that brings me to a little bit of a promotion. On Tuesday, I'm going to go on Jimmy Smith's radio show on Sirius XM because we are going to be talking about women in mixed martial arts and the role of women. And, like, you know, I'm maybe not a fighter, but, you know, I've been here a minute and done a couple things.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to go on and talk with Jimmy, who I also really love. And I used to work with him. And then, you know, I don't get to work with him anymore, but he's a great, great guy. Mm-hmm. So on Tuesday on Sirius XM, I'll be on with Jimmy and we'll be talking about, you know, women in MMA. But I just wanted to point that out and just say, yeah, Megan does a great job. Like, all of us women who work in the UFC, like, we freaking hustle too. You know what I mean? Like, we hustle and we work really, really hard. And it would just be nice every now and then if somebody said, hey, we include you in our group of awesome people.
Yeah, the fans do. You know, we're always working against a double standard, right? We're always working against a stereotype as well. People assume that you don't know as much about the sport because you are a woman and you can't, like, hold in as much information in your tiny woman brain. But but we do all right. We do all right with our little brains, you know.
I don't know. My little brain was able to get through an Ivy League school with a double major.
Yeah.
I speak 3 languages, but I don't know.
Damn, stun on them, Karyn. I'm like, I
got anyway. But yeah, no. So I'm sorry. My whole point was that I was looking for questions on Twitter, and then I just got sidetracked. But I just want to say for those fans who did tweet in and, like, you know, I'm not trying to necessarily, like, put him on blast. It was more just of, like, yeah, hey, like, we do a lot as well. And so a lot of people were like, hey, yeah, don't worry about him. We got your back. We recognize that you girls are doing great things. And so that was really nice. And I just wanted to say yes to the fans who chimed in. Fans. Yeah, like, thank you. Because it feels really good. It feels really good to know that you guys see us and that you at least appreciate what we're doing. Because honestly, like, we're doing it because we love it too. And I know, you know, people will give me grief, but I'm pretty sure Howard Cosell wasn't a boxer. And yet everybody loved all the things he did with Ali. You know what I mean? You don't have to be, you don't have to be in there to understand it and to be able to facilitate a conversation and to bring out the best in people. So, yeah.
You better tell him. You better tell him. Say it again for the people in the back. Yeah.
Right. Well, listen, did you get any questions off of the gram or anything too? Because I think we answered the ones people wanted to know about, a couple of the women's. And then people wanted to know what's next for you, though, Ange, too, because obviously you did just fight a couple weeks ago, but you like to keep an active schedule. So I know some people were asking how quickly you were going to fight again.
Yeah, you know, I'm patiently waiting for my phone call. I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm definitely ready. I heard that Lemos called me out, so that would be a fun scrap. She has some nice stuffed out cheekbones when she makes strawweight, so I'd be happy to punch those little cheekbones and elbow them and slice her up. There's a few strawweights out there. I'm not gonna say the ones I've been saying. Obviously, I'd want any one of those rematches. I gave Yoder a rematch. I think it's only fair that one of those girls I lost to give me a rematch. I feel like I beat them all right now. And I'm just happy for the next challenge. It would be nice to fight someone that wants to fight me. So the Lemos one would be a cool match. But it doesn't really do anything for me ranking wise, but it, like, right now it doesn't really matter. Like, I just need to keep stringing together wins, and then that will speak for itself. So yeah, that's what I'm waiting for. So we'll see. I was like, I'll wait till the pay-per-view's over to start bugging Mick Maynard again, because he knows I'm coming. I'm like the boogeyman. As soon as my fight's over, as soon as my fight week's over, he knows I'm gonna be creeping up in his DMs like, Mick, what's going on?
Right.
But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, hopefully you get something soon because, yeah, I mean, and it is tricky because obviously you want to climb the rankings and everything, but staying active, keep your name out there. I mean, and getting some paychecks is not a bad thing either.
I am happy with the paychecks, so let's keep them coming. Bring them on. Bring them on.
Nice. Well, like I said, my next show is on the 17th, which will be the Whitaker-Gastelum fight, which is going to be pretty dope. I'm excited about that one. So I'm looking forward to getting back to action for that. I mean, before then, we have a couple of other good fights coming up too, but unfortunately, I'm not on those. Not up to me, but anyway. But anyway. Yeah, in the meantime, we do a lot. Well, obviously, this is our 10th episode of our podcast, but I got a lot of other stuff on my YouTube channel. So if you look at YouTube.com/Karyn Bryant, you'll find a lot of stuff there. Also, tons of stuff over on MMA Heat. And then, and especially, too, the cool thing I want to say, Angela, is a lot of the people now, your Vicente Luques, a lot of these people that are on the rise, like, I've got a lot of old footage with a lot of these people, you know what I mean? Or for that matter, you can go back and look at the first time I interviewed John Jones when he was just like this newbie, you know what I mean? Like, and you're like, you're going to fight Shogun one day. And you know what I mean? Like, it's cool. So we have a lot of stuff. If you go poke around my YouTube channel and MMAHeat.com, we got a lot of cool stuff. But on Instagram, I'm at KB Heat. And actually last night, Angela, you know Preacher Lawson? I don't know if you watch America's Got Talent. Did you ever watch that show?
I mean, not recently.
Okay. Well, a couple of years ago, this guy Preacher was on it, and he's really, really funny. He's a really funny comedian. So we went live on Instagram last night right after the fights because he actually trains MMA too. He's like really, really into MMA, and so he trains as well. And so he loves the sport like inside and out. You know what I mean? As just like a fan, but then he also was really into it too. So we went live on IG. People could look at that if they want. But yeah, Angela, where can they find you if they want to follow you?
You can find me at Angie Overkill on Instagram and Twitter. You can find me at Overkill Hill on TikTok. And yeah, that's about it. That's about it.
Cash me outside. How about that? And also
catch me on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok.
Our show is available on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, and also on Apple Podcasts. So you can look for it there if you prefer the audio download as well, right? What?
Yup, do it.
It's all good. Okay, so we're gonna what
happened? What?
What?
There you go. You got it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll see you next time.
All right. Peace out, guys.